maybe I just learned it because the teacher was talking about our government, and I remember the Declaration of Independence. If I remember correctly, didn't it say something like all men are created equal, and you have an inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Does that sound? Is that the Declaration of? Is that not it?
That's the preamble, isn't it?
That's the preamble. Oh, we have got someone who's learned it here. Thank you. I didn't know there was a preamble. Well, at any rate, it really sounds right, you know, wherever it came from and wherever it's been written. I would like to advance the idea to everybody to use such a preamble for yourself, and to say that you have an inalienable right to be. Some people feel they don't. They're not really good enough to be. You have an inalienable right to be however you wish to be, actually. Inalienable means, of course, that God or nobody else is going to take it from you. Except you. You can always block that out if you wish. But do you feel that you have the right to be however you want to be and whenever you want to do it, as far as you, as long as you can get away from it? Of course, if somebody grabs you and throws you in jail and says, no, you can't do that, well, that is a kind of a hindrance. Do you feel you have the right to be however you wish to be? I'm not saying there won't be consequences. I'm just saying you have the right to be. Some people don't feel they have the right to be. They feel that they have the right to be only if they say this to you, or say that to you, or fulfill these rules or those rules. We often have rule books in our minds. I'm okay if only if I do this, this, and this. And a lot of them we just don't even think about and we take for granted, like the rules of etiquette. I'm sure that we would be sorely tempted to judge someone who rushed in the room ignoring all the rules of etiquette, slobbering all over the place, making some animal sounds, and plopping down in a chair and crunching on some Doritos as we had our meeting. Who in here would not immediately judge him? What are you doing here? Please leave. Well, he has an inalienable right to be also, and he's showing you how he manifests being at this time. That doesn't mean we can't ask him to leave with love and compassion or whatever. You're like, get out of here. You know, no, you don't do it that way with love and compassion. It doesn't mean we can't say, well, you need that stuff you're doing, it would really be great out there. Instead of in here because we're trying to have a meeting or something. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the judgment that pops into your mind immediately. Subhuman or something. I don't know. Who knows what form it would take. And that's just one little example. I'm just suggesting that you have rules of some sort. Jesus came here to remove the rules, it seems to me. He said we don't need, in truth, we don't need rules. I'm not saying that they're not convenient in society. Red means stop and green means go is really useful at an intersection. Really helpful to know that. But, yes, Matt.
It's very hard, and I speak for myself, it's very hard to not judge when I hear, I've never seen in person, thank God, but when I hear of somebody killing somebody else, or abusing an animal, or maiming, I personally don't feel that that person has the right to do that. But that's me. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And to not judge that situation is, I have to ask Holy Spirit, help me with this.
Right. When you say he does not have the right to do that, usually I'm not saying that you do, but usually we follow that in our mind with, and he needs to be punished if he doesn't stop. You know, you need to have some teeth, put some teeth into your statement there. Not everyone has to do that, but many times we go there. So what we need to understand is that when we judge this person, we're simply hitting ourselves in the face with a hammer. That's all that's happening.
Absolutely.
We're not hurting him, you know, you're just hurting yourself. When you, any judgment does that. Judgment comes, or the basis of judgment is the belief in good and evil.
And it's
Right
the
and wrong.
opposite of forgiveness.
Oh, yeah, well, that's why we need forgiveness, is because of judgment. Forgiveness is the solution, judgment is the problem. Many people believe that it's fine to judge other people as long as you might come up to somebody and say, I thought you didn't believe in judgment. And someone might say, well, I don't. Well, I saw you judging your uncle last week. And the answer is, yes, but he was doing wrong. I don't judge people who do right, I just judge people who do wrong. And there are a whole lot of them. What was the tree in the Garden of Eden? The knowledge of good and evil. We bit it, we bite it, we're still biting it. It's one of our favorite fruits. Now, all of that that Matt was asking about is embedded in our belief that there's something here that's living. There's nothing alive on the earth except you and the essence of you and the essence of him or her or the animal, and it never dies. It's just it's like however, the complicating factor in all that is that if you do understand that yourself, you have to be aware of the fact that practically nobody else does. And as far as everybody else is concerned, when the animal quits running around, they regard it as dead. And we would like to affirm that life cannot be killed. It's just changed form. It's not the form that is the life. It is the essence or the soul or or the spirit, whichever you want to say. And it cannot die. Death is a fiction. A total fiction. But it is still to be approached with compassion, because everybody else around you is still going to be believing in it and being in pain, let's say, over the loss of their animal or their family member. In other words, to have a cavalier attitude about it when someone is in great grief over some person or animal, well, there's no compassion there. And you're not identifying at all with that or reaching that person. You're basically attacking them. It's almost like you're saying to them, well, you're stupid for even believing that. You know, that's an attack, of course. So I think that it's really, really important to be compassionate. You know, because of, not because of anything true, but because of the prevalence of untruth. Almost everyone believes that they're a body, that they're bodies, and that you're a body, and their little animal is a body as well. It's not, but no matter. They believe it, and you can't snap your fingers and make that belief go around, go away. So it makes sense if you want to be loving. We had something up here on the board just a minute ago about everything that is loving is true and the rest isn't. So to be loving does include compassion for those who are deceived. That's my opinion. I mean, the Course doesn't quite say that, but it seems to make sense to me. I'm not going to. That's the way I'd like to be. That is my goal and intention. rather than just saying, well, you don't have your head on right. If you did, you'd realize that no one dies and there's nothing to grieve about here. That's not appropriate for me. You make your own judgment for yourself. But that's not the way I want to come across. But that is the way I want to be thinking, basically, for myself. But I don't think for other people. I mean, whatever. I would, again, suggest you dump all the rule books out of your mind, just any time you can possibly do so. If you have to tear them out one page at a time, that's fine. If you can grab the whole book, get it. Because it gets in the way. And generally, the very fact it's a rule means that judgment is called for when the rule is broken. That's what a rule book is. Oh, it tells me when I get to judge you. Will you please break another one? You know. What's curious is the fact that we like judgment so much. There are all kinds of judgment, you know, of course. And the Course is teaching us that judgment goes nowhere that you want to go. It's like sliding down a hill. It's going to get in the way of love. It's going to get in the way of compassion and all of that. And what does the Course say? It says, make one last decision. Judgment is a decision. Make one last decision. Decide now that you will not decide by yourself ever again, and will let Spirit be the guide instead. Yes.
So, I don't know if these are the correct words to use actually, but is Jesus saying in so many words, I wonder, to be oblivious to what's going on because it's not true anyway? You know what I'm saying?
Well, oblivious
like when he was on
would
the cross,
mean...
He said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. I mean, and here he is nailed on the cross. So, these things are not real. So,
But they are real to the people to which it is happening, probably, you know, in most cases. But no, they're not real. The Course is just really, really clear on this. It says there is no life outside of heaven. Life outside of heaven is impossible.
thank God.
At best, all life outside of heaven is an illusion. At best, it seems like life. At worst, it seems like hell, I suppose, or such. But I like to, on occasion, I will say to myself that my life is with God. That's where my life is. That is where your life is. It isn't anyplace else. But I still think it makes sense, and I say this just to myself sometimes, I'm thankful that I have an illusion of life instead of an illusion of death, you know. We all are thankful for the times when things are going pretty well and it's easy to say, well, this seems a little bit like life, at least. And we don't want those times when it seems like hell, you know. However, anytime it seems like hell, you have put that word, it doesn't make a difference what word you use, but you have put that into your own mind. That is a judgment of yours that you've accepted. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. It is so important to commit yourself to not judging anything, ever, anywhere. And when you do it anyway, don't judge yourself for doing it. Yeah. Because you will be tempted to do that. If you judge, you forgive yourself. If another does, or seems to do something to you, you judge him. But really, it's only your own thoughts that can hurt you, and they will be thoughts of judgment. Judgment means you're not good enough, and so you're not paying attention to what I was calling the declaration of personal independence. There, you have the right to be, and so does that other person. You see, what we want to do our life is in heaven and with God always. That's just where we are. That is what we are. But we decide that to block that from our mind and make something up different here and call that our life. Well, the Course calls it your illusion of life. It's okay. Again, I'd rather it be an illusion of life than an illusion of suffering. You know, it's an illusion either way. But I'd like for it to bring smiles instead of distress to other people and to myself as well. So you control that yourself with your own mind. I remember years ago when I was sort of first exposed to these, I said, well, I need to stop judging. Well, who do you judge? Well, I judge bad people, of course. So I need to so I must not see them as bad. So I would try to watch Star Wars and not judge Darth Vader. Just as a little practice. You know, it's easier to do that with a fictional character than with a real person. But every time someone challenges you by saying something that unpleasant about you, an insult, nobody likes to be insulted. But every time that happens, it seems to me that there are two things at least that need to occur. First, you need to keep the energy of their judgment out of your mind, not just the words. See, I could say to you that you're tall. You're too tall. See, if I say it in an ugly way, then there's a negative energy in it, and I don't care if you're 10 feet tall. You don't want that energy in your mind. If you're tall, you're tall. You know, there's no such thing as too tall. Not really, because the body is not what you are anyhow. There's inconvenient. The body can be convenient or inconvenient, of course, and it can be sick or it can be healthy, but it's not what you are. The Course says the body is a learning device of the mind. So when you're ill or not feeling well, one of the first things that comes to my mind, okay, what are you trying to tell me? I want to listen, because I don't like being sick and I'd like to feel better as soon as possible.
Bobby, if we could just look at all the events that occur as neutral, because we color them however
Yes.
we want to. If we could just do that,
They are
then
neutral.
we won't go in. We're less likely to go into judgment.
And also that other person, no matter how many rule books of yours that he violates, he still has a right to be. See, most of us kind of think like this. You guys out here, you have a right to be as long as you obey my rule book for being that I've written for you. You're supposed to act this way, but not that way. You're supposed to do this, but not that. We just need to set those things aside. They do not serve you. They do not help you. They may simply make life difficult. There's one chapter in the book, it's chapter 9 actually, that tells us how to treat other people. And I was trying to find them earlier, but I couldn't find them there. But, oh, well, yeah, I could find some of them. And I could tell you a few of them, but I can also quote a couple of them, or read the quotes that tell us how to do that. How do you treat other people? Well, the ego immediately comes to your help here. How to treat other people. And what it will tell you is that it's right and just and the thing, in other words, you should do, and it's this. You need to correct other people's errors. You are serving God's will when you correct other people's errors. I used to believe this 100%. How would I possibly let this person go forward without seeing the error he just did? I'll be doing him a disservice. So I want to explain. So, sir, can I explain to you?
Bob?
Wham!
May I put something in here?
Yeah.
You don't do that with your spouse.
Just do it to other-
Just don't go there.
Just don't go there. Well, I'll stand. I'll go with that.
Hurt my shoulder, broke my arm.
you don't want to believe the judgments of other people about yourself. And I just and at an energy level, you just don't want that negative energy to enter into your mind, because if it does, you can't function very good until you get it out, until you forgive yourself. So just don't, like this. Don't let it in. How do you do a cross with your arms? I don't know. Oh, thank you. Some people really know how to do this. Don't let it in. And so if someone says something negative about you, sometimes it kind of knocks us off our center and we don't know how to reply. But if energy is coming at you, if you don't want it in, send energy at it. You say, well, I don't want to get into a fight. Well, of course not. You remember this wonderful quote from the Course, the best defense, if you're being attacked, you say, I need to defend myself somehow. The best defense is not to attack somebody else's position. Just defend the truth or the awareness of truth. Stand up for your truth. That's different from attacking their positions. You don't really care what their positions are anyhow. You probably don't give one hootin' Hades about that. But it's just, if you feel attacked, you feel, well, I need to attack them. No, you just need to deal with that energy of attack right there and push it. Don't let it in or push it back out. And speak your truth. So if someone says you're bad, you say, I am the Holy Son of God, beloved of God forever, today, yesterday, and always. I hope you are too. You don't have to say that. But you say whatever Spirit brings you to say that feels right and true at that time. Because, by the way, you are the Holy Son of God. And all that stuff that I said is true, as a matter of fact. But you express your truth in your way. So that, I can only remember about one incident, but let me get to Larry first.
Well, I thought we were taught that in my defenselessness is where my safety lies.
It's true. That's true.
Not in trying to push away.
You don't have to say anything.
Well, let's put it this way. It depends on what you need to do.
Is that a judgment?
You need to defend your truth. Protect your truth. In other words, when I think of in my defenselessness, my safety lies, it means that I don't have to make preparations for defending myself and bring in this defense and that defense. Locking the doors, putting more locks on the door. It's stuff like that. In that lesson, it will go through and mention, in fact, some examples of those sorts, things of that sort. However, the Course does say that defense of truth is important and valuable. It does say that. And if our hold on truth generally is not perfect, we don't have, it's not nailed down with 100 nails and totally unassailable. If someone says to you, you're not good enough in some particular way, particularly if they hit one of your buttons about it, that truth will begin to quiver, maybe just collapse. You must affirm that your truth cannot be assailed, or affirm that you are still as God created you. So the defense is basically an affirmation of what you are. But I still think that thinking of it in terms of energy is important. Words carry energy somehow. They just do, Well, I think we all know that. And so when someone looks at you and say, what are you standing there for? Why don't you get out of my way? Don't you know you're holding everybody up? That's going to have effect in most cases. I'm not saying it should have effect. Ideally, it would just pass you by. It's totally unaffected. If so, great, fantastic. But if it starts to shake your truth about yourself, then it is not appropriate to welcome that truth in and say, oh, he's right, I'm not good enough. God, strike me dead, please. Yes.
Well, in other words, his path I am judging is incorrect, and mine is correct.
No, you don't want to judge. Well, if you're talking about, try not to judge at all.
But that's what I'm doing. I would think that's what you were saying, is that You know, if I start shaking, then I am judging.
You're judging
his
yourself.
path.
Yeah. That's what I meant
I'm
was,
judging, there's a difference in his path and my path.
well, and furthermore, his path is you're judging your path is not good enough. I don't know whether you're judging him or not. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Yeah, Brian.
It seems to me the easiest way to defend the truth is to acknowledge your identity and acknowledge the identity of the other. And in there you have forgiveness, and the illusions disappear once you acknowledge your identity and acknowledge the other identity as it's the same. And then judgment is suspended and truth is protected, and you have the energy going out that we are the same, that we are.
Right.
I need to do nothing. That's what I'm taught.
Basically, you do nothing if you identify with as a son of God, because then your identity really takes care of everything.
Absolutely.
I would like to address briefly that I don't need to do anything. But that may very well be truth. It may be right on the mark. All situations are different. You kind of have to decide for yourself. But your belief about your integrity and your perfection is something that generally you need to pay attention to in this world. If it's rock solid in your mind, you don't have to pay attention to it. Somebody call you every name in the book and doesn't matter. And but we're not to that place all the time, and some of us maybe even rarely. So if it's your self-esteem is a little shaky, let's say, particularly on this issue over here. I know my parents wanted me to learn how to sail the ocean blue or whatever, and go on cruises or run cruise ships, whatever, and I just couldn't do that. I hate water, actually. If there's something in you that you feel you should have done and you didn't, or should have done better and you didn't, that puts a shakiness in there. And if someone hits that button, then you're tempted to judge yourself. So I'm just saying that when that does occur, and if it occurs, to whatever extent it occurs, sometimes it is to your advantage to, in fact, it's always to your advantage to not let negative energy enter. You could think of it as being separated and going around you. That would be fine. And then if you don't want to think of pushing back, you could think of it as separated and go around you. But here's what I would say: keep it out at all costs. If you have to push back, push back. Well, how do I push back? I want to give you the universal pushback. Universal pushback for every insult that can be delivered to you. Because, we always under pressure when we say, gee, I just forget what to say. Here's what you say. You say, what? Real loud. Or what do you mean? It applies to everything. I don't care what the person said. Well, he said, well, you're practically illiterate. What? You're an idiot. What? You're ugly. What? That word keeps more energy from coming to you. Now, you may not need to do that if you don't need to do that. You be aware of how you're feeling, and if you begin to feel the threat of that negative energy, I would jump on top of the table and shout, what, if necessary. And if I could stand on my head, I would do that.
But that means you have a button to push.
Yes, that's right. If I have no buttons, why should I do that? Sometimes I have no buttons. But I think I can't predict in advance whether I have a button. You know what I mean? I just don't know how to do that. Because I can remember back when I did have one, I wasn't thinking prior to then that, I've got a button about that. Now, some we might know. I might know I'm real sensitive about the fact that I come from a long line of Martians. And people don't like Martians. So some I might know, but for the most part I'm not thinking, I've got a button about this or a button about that. But sometimes you know, sometimes you don't, yes.
What helps me, as far as negative energy goes, and I live with 8 other women, is remembering that my perception is my reality.
That's right.
And my reality is my opinion, right? And so their perception is their reality, and it's just their opinion. And it's like a navel, everybody has one. When I realized that it's okay, that their perception is their reality and mine is mine, that diffuses that negative energy coming toward me, and I don't have to say much of anything.
There's a whole range of responses and non-responses, and they're gonna differ from one person to another person as to what is needed. And if you're thinking like that, you don't have a problem. You just don't have a problem. The insult just went by. It just missed you. It just missed you. But there are plenty of other people who could feel because of that. Oh, that person knows that I'm practically an alcoholic. How'd they discover that? If you're an alcoholic, you need to accept you're an alcoholic. Hey, guess what? I'm an alcoholic. You got a problem with that? Go tell somebody else. If I want to change it, I'll try to change it. If I don't, I won't. You have a right to be an alcoholic or not an alcoholic. It's just that the different types of being bring on different consequences. Sometimes we don't like the consequences, so sometimes we would like to change. I don't really want to fall over drunk while I'm talking to you. You know, Bob just collapsed. Well, you drank too much alcohol.
Is there any way to have a thought and just not believe in it?
That's an interesting question. There is a way to have a thought and not to believe in it, and the way is to dismiss the thought immediately. If you're going to hold it in your mind, you're going to start believing in it. I mean, I believe. I'll see if anybody agrees or disagrees there. I believe that's the way it works. In fact, the Course says something like, what you perceive, you will tend to believe. So it wants you to actually change your perception immediately, and not wait. Now, the way the ego wants to teach us to forgive another person is like this. You see that other person over there? He just did a faux pas. He just really goofed up. Look clearly at his error. Get it really, really clear in your mind. How poorly he treated that other person. How he had no reason to do this. Get it clearly in your mind. After you do, now forgive him.
You're a good person for doing that.
Yeah. The Holy Spirit doesn't think that way at all. It says as soon as you start to say, look what he did, stop and pull back from that. And just recognize him as a brother. Accept him as he is. So it's not about correcting others. If you correct others, you'll correct yourself. If you judge others, you'll judge yourself. You see, so the biggest lesson is not to judge them and let them be as they are. The goal here is to accept other people as they are, not as they really are. That doesn't need acceptance. It's perfect. You know, why would you not accept it? But as they think they are, accept them as they think that they are at this particular time. And if they think they're a drug dealer, you accept this person who thinks he's a drug dealer. It doesn't mean you need to make a purchase from him. You know, it just means you accept him. There's this wonderful quote from the Course that says, in terms of viewing all this as a dream, and it says, identify with the dreamer, but not with his dream. I don't have to identify myself with the drug dealer's dream, which is to sell drugs and get money for whatever purpose. I don't have to identify with that at all. I'm not interested in that. But I identify with the dreamer. He is still your brother, no matter how negatively he is acting. And he could be acting very negatively. It's not our job to judge, is it? Even if you just ask Orthodox Christianity, I shouldn't say even. There's a lot of good things in Orthodox Christianity. Okay, I was raised in that, but there were some things that were missing as well, and but I was taught even as a child that judgment is of God, not of you. And as the Course, well, what I've taught as the Course is judgment is not of you, and it's not of God either. God doesn't judge, so you don't have to either. Judgment is just hitting yourself again in the sacrifice. That's, judge another, you will judge yourself. You are perfect. Now, the only problem you have with that, I would say, is you think you're a body or a personality. You're not. But you're allowed to think that for as long as you wish. You don't, so, instead of identifying yourself as a perfect creation of God, we are taught to identify ourselves with our body and personality. And if that's where you are, that's okay. If you have a right to be, and that means wherever you are. If you think you're a body, I accept you. I accept your thinking you're a body. I'm not going to encourage it particularly, but I will certainly accept it. It's not my job to judge you as believing the wrong thing. Wherever you are, in my opinion, is the perfect place for you right now. You have a right to be there. Start there. You have a right to be wherever you are. That means that you're not susceptible to any judgment from anybody, and you know why? Because God doesn't judge you. If you were supposed to be judged, He would be the one doing it. And He has said, there's no judgment here. I don't judge my children. He creates His children. And then His children get some wild ideas. Okay? But He does not judge them for having those wild ideas. He just says, well, you have to have your wild ideas in another place. We don't have wild ideas in heaven. We just have joy and peace, etc. in heaven. If you want to have thoughts of hate and judgment or whatever, or fear, fine. But you have to do it over there. That's a little bit like if the guy come in here slobbering or making all kinds of weird noises. We don't judge him for that. We just say, you need to do it over there. I don't know who as far as you.
The wild ideas, is there a way to distinguish between the stuff we obviously make up that we call wild ideas and true divine inspiration?
I really hope so. Yeah, well, yes, true divine inspiration always brings peace to the mind.
By their fruits you shall know it.
Yeah. And gentle lessons. The fruits would be the gentle lessons you would get if you come from a peaceful place. So the first thing that I want to have in my mind is peace. I want to extend that to whoever in whatever way I can. And that means not judging them, no matter what they're doing. Yeah.
It seems to me that this whole discussion today, and I speak again for myself, has been complicated and difficult for me to swallow. And yet we are the ones, collectively speaking, that made up this difficult. God is simple. We made everything difficult
I agree
and
with that.
complicated.
I agree.
I mean, how insane is that?
I agree with that totally.
I mean,
I just would like to say your first task is to love yourself completely.
and that for me sometimes is difficult.
Do it anyway.
I will judge myself before I judge somebody else, and I try not to judge, period. And the key word is try.
Years and years ago, I told a group in my house that when I get up in the morning, sometimes I look in the mirror and I say, I love you, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
And I will not continue the story because Star knows what the story is. And I told it so many times that I will not bother. Some things get old after a while. But, I will too. She came back the next week and said, I did exactly what you said, Bob. I got up, I looked in the mirror and said, I love you, Bob. I said, no. That was not the point.
That's pretty clever.
At any rate, that's something that you deserve to hear from yourself occasionally, that you love yourself. And it doesn't really mean you love your body. Oh, what a great body I have. Well, probably not. Even if you did, it doesn't matter. Or as a personality, oh, I tell such a great joke. It doesn't matter. You're valued in your essence. Your soul is valuable, infinitely valuable to God, and will forever be so. And what the Course says, that as long as our part in the mind of God is absent, see, we're dreaming, so we're sort of, in heaven it's like we fall over into coma. We don't talk to God anymore, we're over in our dream. He doesn't see our dream, but he knows we're dreaming. And he put the Holy Spirit in our mind to help us wake up. Well, we wake up through not judging. So when you start to judge, just ask yourself, am I really interested in awakening from this dream? There's a way. I will not judge. Bless you, my brother. Oh, by the way, it's really good to be proactive instead of reactive. So when you see somebody walking down the street and the ego immediately starts telling you they're not walking right, look how slovenly they are, but they just look like they're half drunk in here. As soon as any hint of negativity comes to your mind, don't go there. Immediately say, bless you, my brother, you holy son of God. Make it a habit. Because if you don't jump in, the ego will continue with its little tirade, and pretty soon you'll be thinking of this other person as the scum of the earth or something. You know? And as having judged him, pretty soon you're going to think of yourself as the scum of the earth or something equivalent. Judgment can be set aside. It just takes a little practice. It seems to me, or maybe a lot of practice, I don't know. Whatever, whatever. If it takes a lot of practice, you'll have the opportunities. And that's why the Course says you're really going to learn through relationships. In the Course, relationships are important. They are the testing ground. After you think you've discarded judgment, and then somebody, your beloved person, says, you're just so messy. And you get mad about it, well, you, -1, I didn't pass that test, did I? But don't judge yourself about that either. You say, I accept myself as being messy if I am, and I accept the other person for not liking it, but I'm still perfect no matter. You must keep your perfection in mind. You're always perfect. No better or worse than anybody else. And the Course says that the reason we want to judge is because we want to acquire specialists, because we think we don't have love. And love is our nature. We just don't open to it. So you need to open yourself to love every day. Because the ego will want to close those doors. And it'll say, you're not worth loving. Besides, you don't know how to do it anyhow. You know, it'll hear us probably, it'll quote the Course that says, even the Course says you don't know how to do that. Because it does say that. So we always ask Jesus to help us, or the Holy Spirit help us to love, you know, as he does. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Why don't we join in a circle? We'll have a closing thought. Let's close with an idea.